Welcome, everyone, to the first session of the Rural Communities Prepared for Disasters webinar series. This session will be offered in English with Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, Mandarin Chinese, and Ukrainian translation with American Sign Language interpretation and CART real-time captioning in English. To choose your preferred language interpretation, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. When you select the ASL language channel, a separate window will pop out with the interpreter. To access CART real-time captioning, please click Show Captions at the bottom of your screen. Translated versions of the presentation slides will be provided in the chat throughout the webinar. Thank you for being here today. My name is Carissa Clark. I work in strategic communications at the Oregon Department of Emergency Management, and I will be your host for the day. This is a two-part series focused on the unique challenges rural communities experience in preparing for emergencies, such as limited emergency resources, increased vulnerability to power outages, and remote locations that are more susceptible to islanding. Throughout the next 90 minutes, our partners will share their knowledge of preparedness and lessons learned through lived experience. Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some conversations about disasters and emergencies can bring up strong emotions or memories. Today's discussion will include some real experiences with emergencies and disasters. Some content may be emotionally difficult or triggering. You're invited to participate in whatever way feels safe for you. Please take breaks, step away, or seek support at any time. Before we begin, let's go over some housekeeping items. To avoid disruptions and background noises, we've muted the microphones and disabled the videos of participants. We have many attendees today, therefore we can't have an open chat function. At the end of the event, we'll have a facilitated question and answer session during which the presenters will answer your questions. You may put questions in the Q&A box throughout the event. There will be an evaluation sent out via email after this session. Your input is appreciated and will help us improve further sessions. While we are not expecting any problems during this presentation, should the presenter experience severe connectivity issues, we will do our best to re-engage or switch to the next agenda item. First up, I'd like to introduce Brooke McCall to welcome you this morning. She is the board president for the nonprofit Upstream Access and holds a master's degree in public health from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She's committed to the equitable and accessible design in all realms. Take it ahead, Brooke.
Thank you, Carissa. And good morning, everyone. My name is Brooke McCall. For a visual description, I am a middle-aged blonde woman with green eyes, and today I'm wearing a black and gray scarf. What is not potentially visible is that I am sitting in a wheelchair, and the item in front of me is called a sip and puff mouse. I use that because I am a quadriplegic and have been for the last 24 years of my life. It's a privilege for sure to be here today with you as we focus on a topic that is extremely vital: the resilience of our rural Oregon communities. I have joined today speaking as the board president of Upstream Access, a nonprofit dedicated to improving the emergency preparedness and resilience of people with disabilities and the aging population throughout the state. In rural Oregon, preparedness isn't just a checklist. It's a way of life. Whether you're in the high desert of the east, the rugged coast, or tucked away in the valleys of the Cascades, you know that rural living requires a specific kind of self-resilience. But we also know that when a disaster strikes, be it a wildfire, flood, or ice, the varied geography that gives us our independence can also create isolation. In these moments, we rely on our neighbors, our local knowledge, and the systems we've built long before the crisis arrives. This is where the work of Upstream Access becomes so critical. When we look at disaster management, we often focus downstream on the rescue boats, the emergency shelters, and on the immediate response. But to truly protect our aging neighbors and those of us living with disabilities in rural areas, we have to move upstream. Moving upstream means looking at the source of challenges. It means designing our emergency communications, our evacuation routes, and our power grids with the assumption that people with diverse needs already live there. If we wait until the smoke is on the horizon to wonder how a neighbor who uses a wheelchair will navigate down their gravel driveway, or how someone on oxygen will cope with a multi-day power outage, we've stayed downstream too long. Our sessions today are looking to build that upstream bridge through three essential pillars: emergency communications, ensuring alerts reach the person at the end of the forest road who may not have cell service or who requires accessible formats; evacuation and sheltering in place, which is moving beyond the just get out to further provide real logistical strategies for those with complex mobility or medical needs. And lastly, backup power, shifting the conversation from power as a luxury to power as a life-sustaining necessity for medical equipment and refrigerated medications. When we prioritize upstream fixes, we trigger what we call the curb cut effect. The curb cut effect is the phenomenon where a design feature intended to help a specific group, like ramps cut into sidewalks for wheelchair users, ends up benefiting the entire population. Just as curb cuts helped parents with strollers, travelers with luggage, or delivery workers, an emergency plan designed for the most high-risk members of our rural towns result in a more robust, clearer, and more effective plan for everyone. By building a system that works for a senior living alone or a person with a disability, we are building a system that is more resistant for every single Oregonian. As you listen to our presenters today, I invite you to keep this perspective in mind. Let's not just plan for the average community member, let's plan for the reality of our diverse rural communities. When we move upstream together, we ensure that no one is left behind when the landscape changes. Thank you for your commitment to a more accessible and prepared Oregon.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Our first presenter today is John Lee, the statewide interoperability coordinator here at OEM. John brings more than a decade of experience in public safety communications to the SWIC team, where he remains committed to strengthening the systems that connect our communities and responders when each second counts. Take it away, John.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is John Lee, and I'm a middle-aged white male with short brown hair, blue eyes, and black frame eyeglasses. I'm also wearing a navy blue polo shirt today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a privilege to talk to all of you folks today about one of our programs within statewide interoperability, and that is the ORAlert program. Just a quick agenda. We're going to go over the mission of what ORAlert is, and ORAlert is Oregon Alerts, and the network that comprises of that system, the notification methods, types of notifications, most importantly, how to get signed up, and some additional information on communications considerations for you and your loved ones. Next slide, please. So the ORAlert mission to ensure access to timely and informative alerts, warnings, and notifications, or sometimes referred to as AWNs, through implementation of a statewide system that enables state, county, city, and tribal governments to issue alerts and warnings, providing people in Oregon with meaningful opportunities to make life-saving decisions in the face of emergencies. Next slide, please. So what is ORAlert? ORAlert is a network of locally managed systems. The state provides the tools, training, and guidance for alerting, but generally, and how and when alerts go out is determined by local officials who have the greatest knowledge of the information needs of the communities they serve and the most up-to-date information about emergencies that occur in their jurisdictions. So there's lots of considerations with that, right? So if you have mobility concerns, there are things that you might want notifications at a different time than somebody else, right? So let's keep those things in mind if you need more time or more information to make life-saving decisions for yourself or loved ones. Next slide, please. So different kinds of notification methods. Or is an opt-in system. So you are opting in, choosing to be a part of the alerts and warnings that are going to be sent out in your jurisdiction that you sign up for. Some of those, so the notification types can include text messages, emails, voice phone calls to cell phones and landlines, push messages from the Everbridge app, keyword and zip code based alerting. So that's a really good one because during wildfire season, if there's a um, particular fire that's named, we can tag, or the local jurisdiction can tag a fire name. Let's say the flat fire that happened last year out in Deschutes County. So if you signed up for keywords for the flat fire, even if you weren't in that area, you would be able to get those messages, as well as TV and radio broadcast messages via the EAS or Emergency Alert System. I'm sure we've all heard those notifications. I remember them interrupting cartoon time on Saturdays almost almost every week. Wireless emergency alerts, or WIA, those are built into your mobile device, your cell phone, whether it's on iOS for Apple or on Android devices. And we can talk about that a little bit more. National Weather Service Radio, that's another one. So the if you are looking to be more prepared, highly recommend getting a NOAA weather radio to receive that National Weather Service radio broadcast. The radio itself can lay dormant and silent until it receives specific tones to tell the radio from the broadcast to turn on and receive those messages. So those are available at local retailers as well as online retailers for a very reasonable price, usually $10 to $15. And you can they even come in a crank style where you crank the handle a few times and it generates enough electricity within the device to last a little bit. As well as Google Alerts, Ring Neighbors app integrations, and many, many more notification methods. So if you have specific needs for notifications, you can get with your local jurisdiction, or you can reach out to us and we can help you go through those settings. Types of notifications. What do we send those alerts for, or what do the jurisdictions send the alerts for? Cascadia's subduction zone warnings, so the earthquake warnings, tsunami warnings, large public events. If there's a parade impeding traffic or stuff like that. Geolocation. If you're interested in a specific area, if something happens within this specific area, I want to be notified. Emergency evacuations, we've seen that many times. Active shooter to take different action. Maybe it's a lockdown situation where you're at to make sure you're safe. Civil unrest and mobile device alerts. There's all different kinds, and there's a couple of examples over on the right-hand side of the screen for emergency alerts. Next slide, please. So let's get signed up. Down at the bottom of the page, there is a URL that you can type into your browser, www.oralert.gov or oralert.gov. And it will bring you to a page that looks very similar to this. And there are a couple different things on this page. You can enter in your zip code, your county, city, or tribe name, and then it will populate in that bar, and then you can select what the selection you want is. And with that, it will take you to another page. One more thing before we go off of this page, up at the top, there is a live alert messages button, and you can push on that, and it will show all of the current live messages posted by local alerters. So, and that is scrolled down on the page that we're currently on as well. Next slide, please. All right. So we're going to start by entering in our email or phone number. And this is, if you are already signed up, now is a good opportunity to update all of your information, to go into the system and make sure that you are signed up for the right county or the right city. And want to make sure that you, if you have other areas, so for myself, I stay over in Polk County, but I work in Marion County. So even, I guess that's a bad example because Marion and Polk alerts are the same thing. But if I lived here in Marion County and worked over in Deschutes County, I can sign up for both counties. That's my point there. So go into your account or create a new account, and you enter in your first and last name, put in your email address and your phone number, and then you'll go on and it will look like this. So you can add different subscriptions for the alerts that you want. Next slide, please. And there is the shoots. And next slide, please. And you'll be taken to the Deschutes alerts page. And it might seem a little odd, but for every county, you will have to sign up for alerts because the county is the alert originator. Again, going back to the earlier slides, they are the jurisdiction that is authorized to send out those alerts. And this is a little map of that live alert message button, and shows that there on the left hand side that there aren't any are not any messages at this time, and then over on the right it's a different map, and it has the two alerts that were sent. Next slide, please. All right, now that we're all signed up for OrAlert, I want to take a little bit of time and talk about communications for yourself in being prepared and resilient. So, why do communications fail during disasters? So, some of the things, damage to infrastructure, whether it's a cell phone tower, fiber lines, or power systems, because power is required for all of these systems. If we lose power, we're going to typically lose some other type of communications method. However, there are many towers that are on backup power, whether that's a generator or battery backup system. Typically, or many of the cellular towers in our area, in our state, they do not have backup generators. So if they lose their normal commercial power at the cell phone site up on the hilltop, uh, they are on battery backup. So usually it's about 48 hours before that battery backup runs out. So if the power is out for a couple hours, we're really not going to have any effect on that. However, if it's a longer duration, we could lose uh, cellular connectivity or radio connectivity with those problems. Network congestion. So back when 9/11 happened, I was living on the East Coast and in North Carolina, and the events that happened in New York City, we weren't able to make phone calls even down in North Carolina because the network was so congested. Um, one of the things to consider if you do happen to get that fast busy signal where you can't complete your call, try sending a text message. A text message will actually go into the queue, and it will wait for a slot in that system to be able to be sent. um, Limited backup power for commercial networks. So again, going back to our first line, um, the backup power systems that we have, it is limited. Weather impacts, storms, wind events, wildfire, smoke, even a lot of the infrastructure that we use for communications is can be affected by wildfire smoke depending on how thick that smoke is. It will actually degrade the radio transmissions to be able to complete those calls. And then system interdependencies. So internet outages knock out voice over IP and many more things. So having a PACE plan or a primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plan of how you are going to call or get messages to somebody is definitely a consideration. Next slide, please. So let's talk about communication challenges in rural areas. So sparse radio cellular coverage and weaker baseline signals. So in rural areas, typically there aren't the density of the cellular towers. So if you go up into the Portland area, there might be 10 cell phone towers within a 1 mile radius. But if you go out across the 22 out towards Detroit Lake, there's only enough cellular towers in certain areas to make those calls. So if one tower goes down, it might be a very long distance in between those cell towers to make those calls. Fewer redundant systems than in urban areas. So again, the cellular tower analogy, the density, and same thing for power. Some of these sites have multiple feeds for power. Um, Another consideration is power instability during major weather events. So knowing that we have major weather events coming in, whether it's high winds that might not knock down power lines or ice storms, those types of things, the power systems that we have can be very unstable out in rural areas. Terrain barriers. So mountains, valleys, and heavy forests. So the reason why we lose connectivity sometimes is we're going down into whether it's an urban valley in I was just up in Portland a couple days ago, and I went under an underpass and lost cellular connectivity. Same thing for the mountains. Everything, all of the radio systems, including cellular, work off of line of sight. So your device basically needs to be able to see that tower to be able to communicate. Next slide, please. So let's talk about radio. So radio does not rely on cell phones, cellular service, broadband, or commercial networks. And when I say radio, we can talk about a couple different things. We can talk about handheld radios that you can communicate to a small area, your neighbors or your small community, or broadcast radio, so your AM and FM radio stations. So those radio stations don't rely on cellular, broadband, or other commercial networks. They're built with strong backup power and hardened systems. So those radio towers, they have robust power backup systems that will minimize the their loss of power during certain events. It will, with that, it will function during extended power outages. So a lot of them have backup generation, so using fuel instead of battery to last longer. And they can also broadcast alerts to everyone without congestion. So broadcasting means that it goes out to everybody all at one time. Same thing with the wireless emergency alerts. Those are a broadcast, but we still need cellular connectivity to receive those broadcasts. Well, with radio, in the FM and AM radio bands, that is a broadcast as well, a receive only. Next slide, please. Types of emergency radios. I mentioned these earlier. NOAA weather radio. So the all hazards radios, again, you can find them at local retailers. You can find them online retailers, very inexpensive. Definitely something to have in your preparedness kit. And you can listen in on AM and FM emergency information stations. So highly recommend to once you get that device, you find out what radio stations are in your area to be able to tune into those stations during times of emergencies, or there's a constant broadcast of weather on those stations as well. It's just a a recording that plays back. Comes, like I said, it comes in many different features. You can hand crank. Some have solar. Some have long battery lives, and those same alerts. And I apologize, I don't remember the acronym off the top of my head, but that same alert does is the radio stays silent until that alert is sent to the radio, and then the radio speaker turns on, and you're able to hear those broadcast messages coming in. So one of the considerations is they are portable for if you have to evacuate or shelter in place. So you have that device available to you. So strengthening community preparedness. So with the Be 2 Weeks Ready program, this is really, we need communications redundancy to make ourselves more resilient here in Oregon and nationwide. So understanding your needs, understanding what communications capabilities there are, and teaching everybody in your in your family as well as in the community how to use these things and how they are going to communicate with you when your primary means of communication is affected. So meaning if your cellular phone goes offline, do you have a backup landline? Or if not, what are the other communications capabilities that you have? Um, in my opinion, every household should maintain multiple information sources. So, meaning able to communicate on different modalities. So, whether it's cellular, whether it's handheld radio, whether it's a mesh radio that's becoming more and more popular. All of these different things, depending on your needs, are considerations. Um, and then it's kind of like that speech that we get when we ride in a plane, supporting your neighbors, seniors, and vulnerable residents. So put your mask on first, and then help your neighbor. So if you are in a status where you're not able to help somebody else, um, it's more difficult. So if you put your mask on first and then help others, meaning if you have a communications capability, your neighbor might not. So those are the things to have considerations in. Next slide, please. All right. Well, that's the end of my slides. I will, Kayla, do we have time for questions?
Q&A is at the end.
Okay.
So thank you so much, John. Appreciate your time. Our next speakers are Suzanne Settle and Andrew Murray. Suzanne is the Emergency Services and Resilience Director for the Burns-Paiute Tribe. After joining the Burns-Paiute Tribe in 2023, she created the Wildfire Initial Attack Team program and has responded to 5 disasters: the Jonesboro landslide in 2023, the Falls and Telephone fires in 2024, and the 2024-25 winter snowstorm, and the 2025 Sylvies River flood, and the 2025 cyber threat incident. Andrew Murray is an experienced emergency management and public safety professional with a diverse background in military and law enforcement service. In November 2024, he was appointed Emergency Management Director for the City of Canyon Beach, where he leads preparedness, response, and recovery efforts to protect the community. Suzanne, why don't you start us off?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Suzanne Settle, and I'm having technical issues, which is why my camera is not on. I am in a frontier community that in Harney County where John Lee was just talking about the types of communications issues we potentially have over here, sometimes based on weather, sometimes based on disasters. We're going to talk about how disaster impacts communication channels on a different wavelength than what John just spoke about. Go ahead and next slide, please. So one of the things is, and I'm trying to make this humorous for everybody, is watches versus warnings. And part of that is along the evacuation lines that we use in Oregon, which is the be ready, get set, and go now. And so a watch is where you're getting ready for everything you need to have on hand. You're just having it ready. And then the warning is get ready to go because the tacos are ready. So with regards to communications, that is a lot of times the first point of failure. We hear a lot that I didn't know we were under evacuation. I didn't hear about it. John laid out a lot of avenues for communication. In the signing up, the listening to the radios, having a backup radio, getting text messages and emails on your phones, watching the weather, watching what NOAA is saying when you're listening to the weather radio if you have one. And so we can have power outages and still have cell service. Out here, we have areas that have no cell service, and that even if you were out hiking through some of our areas with no cell service, you wouldn't even get that WIA alert, the weather alerts, the amber alerts, you wouldn't even get those. And if you're not signed up to receive local notifications, then you'll have a lack of awareness. And I think that's where our partner agencies, our COADs, our community-based organizations, our churches, and all of those can actually have a big impact on who they serve by speaking to their emergency manager, their local emergency manager, and saying, how do I get my people signed up? How do we know? Out here, we actually use old school phone trees also, where somebody makes a phone call and calls 5 other people who call 5 other people. And we use that a lot in some of our out, um, outlying communities that have no cell service. But they have landlines still. A lot of them still have landlines. So redundancy is the key. And there's multiple options. We use texting. We have our own text setup. We have the state's text setup, which is Everbridge that John had talked about. We have an all hands email that goes to every household on the reservation. We have social media. We don't have any radios, we have radio stations, 2 of them out here in Harney County because the tribe just got their own radio station. It's a low frequency FM. It's KBSR 91.5. And we use that during emergencies also. We have no TV stations out here, and we don't get much. If you got a really good antenna, we might get some TV out of Boise and sometimes out of Bend, but we don't get any local news that's coming out like right now. We're getting in a little later than that. During the flooding, as you saw in the pictures I originally had, during the fires and the flooding, we actually went door to door. We set up reader boards at our gathering center, which is our community building, and community building we have in town. A lot of the churches and stuff can also reach out, the community-based organizations, churches, those kinds of things, can reach out when there's a large disaster and see if they can get reader boards in front of their doors, and those kinds of things. There's so many ways to communicate, and sometimes we forget in all of this technology that it can be as simple as going door to door, putting out flyers, making sure you stay informed. Next slide. This is actually one of the reader boards that the incident management team set up for us during the fires. And I think that was on the last slide. And so if you actually reach out and talk to your local emergency manager and make sure that you're in the room and getting the information, that is super helpful. We have cooperators meetings out here when the fires are going on. It's every day. It's community based leadership, and then they take it back to whoever they're working with. And then we also have the community level meetings. This is what Oregon uses for evacuation notifications. Be ready, be set, and go now. So the level 1 green is be ready. You should be getting the information and having all of that, all of your stuff lined out. Have your go kit ready, whatever you need to pack. I always pack a little in advance because we're so far out that we may want to have all of that stuff ready. But you can leave it in the house if you just have it by the door. Everybody have a backpack. Level 2 is be set, be ready to evacuate at a moment's notice when the danger levels get heightened. By then, you should be getting emergency alert system alerts telling you that you're at a level 2 and to get ready. And if you have any elders, senior disabled, children, small children especially, or animals that need to come with you, like dogs or cats, then make sure that you are probably ready to go on a level 2 and at least pack that stuff into the vehicle in advance. The level 3 is go now. And that is exactly what it says, go now. A lot of times you'll be alerted that at the level 2 level that, you know, The level 3 is imminent at this time. When they switch it to a level 3, you really do have to follow those directions. If you're planning on staying, we'll get into that. But you responders won't be able to get to you once that area is evacuated. There a lot of times it'll be locked out because of either smoke or fire on the roadway sides where it's not safe to go through. So when they say level 3, go now, that means you're right at that window where you need to get through whatever the incident is, get through the flooding and those kinds of things. During the flooding out here in last March, uh, we were we had told elders and everyone who needed to go sooner to go ahead and go. And we got a lot of them in hotels in advance. But there were some who didn't get the communication. They didn't hear the door. They didn't hear someone at the door. They didn't have a radio. They don't have TV. And so we literally went in with rubber boats and all kinds of things and floated people out to the roadway, got them in vehicles, and got them out. So that makes it harder for responders. Every disaster is different, whether it's wildfire, whether it's flooding, just anything. And so communications is the key, but receiving the communication is really important. And if you're a member of a community-based organization or the volunteers or, like the VOADs and COADs, then you can really set yourself up to also get advance information out to who you work for, your constituents, or even if you're working for other smaller offices in your county that you're in, then you can also have that information and be in communication with the emergency managers. I collaborate with emergency managers, with all of the churches, anybody who reaches out to me. I make sure they have the information. And if I know they've asked for it before, I have no problem reaching out and making sure that they're on a list to get information so that they can pass out. They're also welcome to come pick up printed flyers and stuff to give out to whoever they serve in their community. Next slide. This is the scary side of disaster, and this is what to do when you cannot evacuate. You need to prioritize that in advance, especially for your safety and the safety of anyone who's staying back with you, and let your local emergency manager or your fire department, your dispatch center, let them know that you will not be able to evacuate or that you are not evacuating. That's when you need to prepare where you live, where you're going to shelter in place in advance. So if you know that these types of things happen and you know the threats in your area and you plan on not evacuating, then always be prepared in advance of whatever season it is. You spend your fall and winter preparing for spring and summer, which is typically out here wildfire season, and you spend your spring and summer preparing for fall and winter, which is typically our snow and flooding seasons. And so we know those things out here. So be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where you live, be aware of who can assist you. And reach out again to your local emergency manager, your community-based organizations, your COADs and VOADs, to ask them, what should I be doing out here? Everybody has the information. We all just want to keep people safe. That's exactly what all of us do in our positions. And we want to make sure that we can give out information to anyone. Reach out to OEM. There's a lot of great handouts and brochures that you can find on their website. Print them out, give them to your local community. Go door to door once or twice a year, just so that everybody knows and is aware and knows who to call. If you are staying in there and you're not going to need any additional assistance and you've prepared all of your things, stay informed. Awareness is 100% the key to understanding the situation, and have a way to get out if you know that you're going to at some point potentially leave, but you're just trying to stay as long as you can. Prepare your space, secure your windows and doors, create a safe room if necessary. Gather essential supplies like a radio, food and water, medications, a first aid kit, fill bathtubs and containers with drinking water and sanitation. Next slide. Sorry, my computer's catching up with me. So again, have the plan to shelter in place when you can't evacuate. Next slide. Sorry. So thank you very much. And I know that we're going to have questions at the end, and let us know if you need anything else. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Suzanne. And next up, we've got Andrew Murray. Take it away. Do we have Andrew on?
Yeah, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you so much.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Murray. I'm the emergency manager for the city of Cannon Beach. I'm a middle-aged white male who is bald. I have blue eyes, beard, and I'm currently wearing a black polo City of Cannon Beach t-shirt. Here is the outline for my presentation today. I just went over the introduction. I'll be going over Cannon Beach's specific hazards and challenges that are unique to us as a rural area, why evacuation levels exist, evacuation levels to include a real world scenario that we went through last summer, the difference between a local resident versus a tourist, and why that's unique to us as Cannon Beach. And then what is Cannon Beach doing currently? What do we have? What have we been doing, and what we're currently doing if you can't evacuate? And then closing statements. Next slide, please. So some Cannon Beach challenges, specific hazards. Some of them that are unique to us are tsunami, wildfire, flooding, severe winter storms, and landslides. Those hazards are pretty across the board, all along the Pacific Northwest. Those are pretty generic wherever you go up the Pacific Northwest of Oregon and Washington. We deal with limited road access here in Cannon Beach. We only have 4 main entrances and exits within the city limits. We do have a smaller amount of first responders, whether that's police or the fire department, which is the Cannon Beach Rural Fire District. And then we have a smaller amount of city workers being in a rural area. We only have one single primary highway, which is Highway 101, and that travels north and south, respectively, through or along Cannon Beach. Tourist congestion, which could get really bad in peak seasons. We're getting ready to go into peak season right now for tourists. Seasonal population spikes, and that deals with local residents. People have a lot of second homes here, so in the wintertime, population goes down, and then in the summertime, it goes up. Coastal tsunami zones, and then some, if not most, areas require vertical evacuation or walking if we do have to evacuate out of city limits. Next slide, please. Okay, so why do evacuation levels exist? First of all, it prevents confusion during emergencies. It allows me and my team to hopefully eliminate the confusion by sending out necessary and appropriate alerts ahead of time. It provides time to prepare. It allows for phased evacuations, reduces congestion, like I just said. Within city limits, the congestion here can get pretty bad with only 4 entrances and exits. And then it also protects emergency responders and city workers due to the fact that there's simply not enough of them or enough of us to deal with the mass influx of population spikes. Next slide, please. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go over the levels. So like Suzanne stated, there's 3 levels within Oregon. Level 1 is Be Ready. And during this, I like to cover some pre-action things that individuals can do even before the Be Ready level. So something that a lot of people don't take into account is homeowners insurance. So I previously worked in restoration of residents out here on the coast. And so something that is really important, take a look at your homeowners insurance to ensure that you're properly covered for whatever disasters, natural disasters, or any situation that may come to your home, whether it's a fire, a flood, a landslide, a tsunami. Make sure you're properly covered and you have everything, set up. And then document all your belongings. If you're evacuating, if at a moment's notice, you're not going to be able to collect all of your personal belongings. So it's super important to beforehand, whether it's taking pictures of your residence, taking pictures of your higher end items, videos. What I do is I walk through my residence at least once a year, and I video my entire residence that shows everything that I own, and then I put it on a flash drive and I put that in my go bag. It's important for just sentimental things, but it's also important for insurance things and reimbursement on the back end after a disaster if your home does indeed, if you can't go back to it. And then during level 1, Be Ready, some things to take into account. You want to stay informed, like John and Suzanne said. Sign up for those local emergency alerts, whether it's through Everbridge or some other platform. Sign up for those social media pages. I know there's local ones here, on Facebook and Instagram or neighborhood pages. I know within my neighborhood we have a specific neighborhood page where we post things online if there's something happening. So sign up for all of those within your local jurisdiction, your local area, to stay informed. Review your plan, locate your go bag, fuel your vehicles. I'm in a habit of, and I tell my wife, I never let our vehicles get below half a tank of fuel because you never know what sort of emergency you're going to be in, whether you're stuck in a traffic accident for 2 hours or you have to drive several miles. You want to make sure you have enough fuel in your vehicle to get where you're going. Check your medications, and then once again, monitor your alerts. Next slide, please. Level 2, Be Set. I'm just going to go over some actions like Suzanne was saying. At this phase, you actually want to be taking measures to right before level 3. So you want to load your vehicles. It's better to be over prepared than under prepared. So during this phase, you want to be over prepared. Load those vehicles, gather your pets, gather your pet go bags, gather your medications and bring those in your vehicle. Prepare your family members, especially if you have vulnerable family members or children. Notify loved ones who live outside of the area. That way they're not worried about you and they're informed and they know your plan as well. Consider leaving early. Leaving early reduces traffic, helps emergency responders, especially in rural areas like us, because we may only have a total force of 8 first responders, and that would help them in a system of not being over inundated. And like I said, it's really important for those vulnerable populations. Next slide, please. And then finally, it's level 3. Like Suzanne said, this is go now. At this point, if you're getting this evacuation alert, you're grabbing that go bag. If you already haven't had it, if it's not already in your vehicle, you're going to follow those evacuation routes. If it's a tsunami or if you can't get in your vehicle, you're either going to walk, jog, or run if it's necessary. And then, like I said before, leave behind any belongings that you don't need outside of those super, super important belongings. The most important thing in this level or this phase is is you and your life and your loved ones and getting out safely. You can always come back, or those belongings can always be replaced. Next slide. Okay, so this is a real world scenario. So on this, there's two pictures on this page here. The left picture is the actual message that I sent out. And then the picture on the right is a map of Cannon Beach and the area that this message reached. This was last July 29th of 2025. This was when we had a tsunami watch in effect. The message says a tsunami watch is now in effect. If you're located in this coastal area, stay alert for further updates. No action is currently needed. So this would be that level one, where it's, hey, this is information. Something more may come. You don't need to do anything right now, but this is be ready. This is a real world scenario last year. Next slide, please. And then this is later on that night. So you can see the picture on the left is the message that I sent out at 6:57 p.m. It states tsunami advisory. So this would be like a level two. If you're located in this coastal area, move off the beach and out of harbors and marinas. And then the picture on the right shows where that message was sent to in Cannon Beach area. And so we upgraded this alert in real time to hopefully get people to move off of the beach and out of the danger zone. And then we went a step further and we actually got boots on the ground on the beach. Myself, city workers, first responders, volunteers. We went on the beach because in July, the amount of tourists that are here, there may have been anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 people currently in the town, and a lot of the tourists don't get this alert that you're seeing on your screen because they're simply not signed up for our local alerts. And so we had to go in our vehicles on foot and notify people on the beach of this message. And so you may have to do that to make sure that everybody in the local area is getting these notifications and getting the information to best assess their situation and what they want to do. And so, like Suzanne was saying, you want to utilize every means possible to make sure that everybody in your community is getting that information. Next slide, please. Okay, so resident versus tourist. So this is super important to know as a first responder or a local emergency manager, especially here in Cannon Beach. Residents, they should know evacuation routes. They should understand tsunami zones. They should have go bags, know high ground locations. They should be signed up for all of those alerts. Now these are all shoulds. Doesn't mean everybody has the means or capabilities to do that if they're a local resident. And so that's why it's super important to, do programs outside of these, like local programs called Know Your Neighbor or senior outreach services. Have neighborhood pods, neighborhood channels. If you know somebody that is a local resident that they're not signed up for these alerts, go knock on their door.
Hi, apologies. We're going to pause for a moment. I believe one of our Spanish interpreters clicked to the English channel. We're now
Okay.
hearing you on the English channel.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah, so it's super important to know that with residents and know your neighbors and know the people in your community. Tourists, most oftentimes, they don't know evacuation routes. They don't receive those alerts. They don't know tsunami zones. They may not have a vehicle. We get a lot of buses that come out from the Portland metro area with tourists. We do get local cruise ships, and so they bus people around, and so a lot of tourists may not have a vehicle, and then they also may just wait too long. They may not know the severity of the situation, and that puts them in danger. So next slide, please. And so, with all that being said, what is Cannon Beach doing in the case that we can't evacuate, or if the emergency does happen and we are stuck and we are islanded and we have to, we have to wait for the cavalry or the help to reach us. We have several emergency volunteer teams. To name them, it's a Community Emergency Response Team, which is CERT, Cannon Beach Medical Reserve Corps, or MRC, Cannon Beach Disaster Animal Response Team, DART, and then the Sunset Empire Amateur Radio Club, or CIRC, and then you can see all of their logos on the bottom there. And then we also do have a local Red Cross as well that we do work with that is not pictured on this slide. Next slide, please. So the city, we have worked with a program, or it's an entity called Dogami, and they have helped us get signage and mapping put up throughout the entire city. So the pictures you're seeing here on your screen, the left one is the north side beach entrance, and it has tsunami evacuation signage and mapping and arrows pointing where to go. And then we have one at Midtown as well, that shows the mapping, and then in Tolovana, which is south, as that as well. And throughout the city, we have these maps located in strategic areas, and so you'll be able to follow those evacuation routes, which will lead to assembly areas within the city where hopefully there is going to be either a volunteer there that knows what to do, or a city worker, or a first responder. And so those are some things that we have put in place, not only for local residents, but for tourists who may not know where to go. These are visual cues, and they're highly visible and located throughout the entire city. Next slide, please. And then we as a city, we have an emergency communications independent system. And so this site you see here, both pictures, it's our repeater site. And so within this repeater site, we have ham radio, GMRS. We have a local radio. They have their antenna up there as well. And this allows us to have our own frequency that allows us, not only as emergency teams, volunteer teams, to communicate if the power goes out or if local cell phones go out. This allows us to communicate in any sort of emergency situation. And I think it was John that said earlier about during an emergency situation, the congestion on cell phone towers, it's a real thing. We see that during multiple scenarios in the summertime, whether it's events like the Sandcastle event or 4th of July, just the amount of people that come to town. Cell phone towers aren't working, and so we actually set up our emergency teams, and we communicate emergency situations to and from dispatch, simply because somebody, if they try to call 911, the congestion on the cell phone towers won't allow them to reach out. So we do have an independent system. Next slide, please. This is communications continued. This just shows it's a legend of how the city is broken up into sections for that communication on a repeater. So the colors are orange is a ham repeater, green is a GMRS repeater, and then we have several divisions working from north to south, and most local residents know what division they're in. So the North Division, which is yellow, is called Oscar, and then Echo Division, Whiskey Division, Tango Division, and then down south, which goes into Arch Cape area, is Alpha Division. So next slide, please. So the first Wednesday of every single month, we do a thing called Wayfinding Wednesday, and it has to deal with emergency radio check-ins and as well. And so basically within each of those divisions, we have a net control, and we get to practice our radio check-ins utilizing that emergency radio system. And then we also, if the weather is permitted, which isn't today because it's raining, we actually walk to our assembly areas, and we meet up as a team. And this helps us stay fresh and stay trained up on the emergency communication system in Cannon Beach. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also have a system that's called a Coastal Outside Warning System, or COWS. And the pictures you see on your screen here are each individual siren that is in Cannon Beach. We have 4 sirens in Cannon Beach, and then 2 down in Arch Cape. And this system allows myself or emergency responders to initiate any sort of emergency alert over these sirens. And so we have a couple of different. So we have a tsunami warning, a wildfire warning, and then we also have it's just a plain talk. So I can just go over the system and say what real time talking over the system and give out information over that as well. So this system is used for residents as well, but the primary purpose is for those tourists who aren't signed up for any sort of emergency alert. And this is like the this will alert everybody within the community of whatever emergency or evacuation. Next slide, please. So these are just going over the Arch Cape locations as well as the south location in Cannon Beach. And so this system, I can access it from anywhere in the world. So whether I am in Cannon Beach or I am in Sun River at the Oregon Prepared Conference, if I need to set off the alarm and nobody else can, I can access it via a web portal and blast out whatever emergency evacuation or alert is necessary for the community. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to go into my the city emergency cache sites, and we have 4 sites within the city. It's Oscar, that's off of Old Cannon Beach Road, which is north. Echo site, which is off of Elk Creek Road, Midtown, and then Whiskey, Elk Creek Road as well, which is our water treatment facility, and then Tango, which is down south off of the Tolovana main line. Next slide, please. So on the screen here, you're seeing pictures of all of our emergency cache sites. So number 1, that is going to be the Oscar. Number 2 is going to be Echo site. Number 3 is going to be Tango. And then number 4 is going to be Whiskey. So these sites are emergency cache sites that have emergency supplies, food, water, medical, supplies for bedding, hygiene, showers. So these sites are strategically placed next to assembly areas. So if we're telling individuals to evacuate to these assembly areas, they're going to be close to these sites that have all of these supplies for them and for residents in the community. We have propane, we have heat sources, like I said, showers. We have enough supplies at these locations, and we're constantly rotating and updating them and adding more to each site to make them more conducive to sustain anybody in a situation. And I know it says be 2 weeks ready, but us as a community in Cannon Beach, we're actually trying to be 6 weeks ready, just because we know how stranded we're going to be if we can't evacuate. As you see on your screen there, we also have Red Cross shelter trailers there as well, and they provide us cots and blankets and sleeping bags as well. So these sites are heavily stocked. Next slide, please. So within these sites, we have a program that's called the Community Barrel Program, and that's where somebody can purchase a barrel and they can place it at one of these sites that is closest to their residence. And inside these barrels, they can put medical things, their own clothing, boots, food, whatever supplies that they want and they think that is necessary for them. They can place them at these sites, and this is super important for people who live in these inundation zone, who have to evacuate and who have to leave, and they may not be able to go to their residence. And so people can go and sign up for this program and put a barrel at these cache sites, and we do get a lot of participation in this from our community, which is a really good program. Next slide, please. All right, a couple future projects to hopefully make us more resilient and safer. We're working on a First Street Bridge seismic reinforcement. So the 2 pictures on your left there are of First Street Bridge, which is on the north side of Cannon Beach. We're currently trying to make that seismically reinforced to where if we have to evacuate or if a large scale earthquake happens, that bridge will be there after the earthquake so people can evacuate the city. And then Tolovana access ramp, which is the 2 right pictures there. that will ensure that we can be a ship-to-shore community. So if we are stranded and the only way we can get emergency supplies from the Navy is via the ocean, we can actually receive those supplies if we update this ramp and make it a ship-to-shore area. Next slide, please. All right, so what does all this do? It connects community, it connects police, it connects fire, city staff, emergency volunteers, the citizens within here, regional partners, local, county, state. It makes us a more resilient community to be able to respond to and recover from any sort of disaster in our community. And so without all of this preparedness and without all of these people on the screen here, we wouldn't be able to do that. Next slide, please. Just a quick quote. So understanding evacuation levels today means making faster, safer decisions when it matters most. Next slide. And this is my contact information. If anybody ever needs to get a hold of me, I'm generally available anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne and Andrew. Now we will hear from Julia Beems, the Senior Research Instructor, Assistive Technology Program Outreach Coordinator, and Emergency Preparedness Coordinator with the Center for Innovative Design and Engineering in the Department of Bioengineering at the University of Colorado, Denver, Anschutz Medical Campus. She has worked in the field of assistive technology for more than 40 years, providing assessments, technical assistance, and training to individuals with disabilities, their families, and professionals who serve them. Take it away, Julia.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us. And as Carissa said, I am in Colorado, so we have a little bit of different disasters here. But we are currently experiencing power safety shutoffs. And actually, but we are in a major fire wind warning today. So I think they have said 75% of our state may be shut off later today. So this is a good topic to be covering. So we want to talk about backup power and what you need to know. And first of all, I am an older woman with gray hair and glasses and wearing a bright colored shirt today. So why should you prepare? We want to make sure that people have backup power for their safety, so that there are critical services that they can receive. It again assists with the communication, which we've been talking about this morning, supporting all those medical needs that individuals may have. And of course, it promotes resilience and minimizes the economic impact. Next slide, please. So we want to try to make sure people have at least 3 days or 72 hours of backup power to ensure all these essential operations. Most importantly, it offers a buffer zone to allow individuals time to assess the situation, to make sure that they have the necessary assistance they need, and to make any necessary arrangements to help with the evacuation until the power is restored. So there's all kinds of reasons that you want to stay prepared. But again, we try to make sure everybody has at least the 3 days of backup power. So when we talk about backup power, what are we talking about? So there are home connected batteries, which are becoming more popular. So we have the standby generators, which is like the Generac, if you guys have those out there. They are powered by natural gas and propane. Or we have the whole home battery, which is like the Tesla Powerwall 3. So they are able to power your entire home, or you're able to set it up so that you can power certain parts of your home. So you can power your furnace, your refrigerator, your freezer, but maybe not all your lights. There is some options that come along with that. It needs to be compatible with any existing electrical system that you have. And we talk about the home electrical capacity. One of the things that we have found, if people live in older homes, their electrical system does not always have the capacity to take on these new battery systems or backup power systems. And so they have to install additional breaker boxes and electrical systems to be able to take all the power that's coming in. Also, there is an inverter or transfer switch that may be automatic or manual. A lot of the whole home batteries will be automatic, and some of the standby generators are automatic, where you don't have to flip a switch to have the power come on. It just automatically does that. For other systems, there is a manual switch that you actually have to throw so that the power does come on. So for individuals who maybe have a limited mobility, we usually recommend an automatic transfer switch for them. Different jurisdictions also have different installation requirements that they have to meet in order to set these systems up. You can become energy independent so that you can actually gather power and use it for your power bills down the road. Is usually a large initial investment. Here in Colorado, we're looking at $10,000 plus for those investments. So it is a large investment. But over the long haul, there is a savings that comes along with that. And then there's multiple government incentives that can help you pay for some of these systems, whether it's at the federal, state, or local levels. Next slide. We also encourage people to look at portable units, particularly people who maybe have disabilities, so that they can take their power with them. But we also look at all the different systems because we want to make sure people understand that they don't always need a large heavy-duty power station. So there's the portable chargers and power banks that will support your smartphones or your laptops and some of those smaller devices. And particularly when we're looking at extreme heat this summer, I even have a fan that works off a USB that I can charge it through one of these smaller chargers. Power tool batteries are being used now, not only to power their power tools, but with an inverter, you can power your lights, fans, power strips. It's an option that you can get, and the inverter is not that expensive. I mean, I've looked into one that's like $40 for the type of power tools I have. There are the portable battery power stations, which we have used here in Colorado. One of the programs I ran in the last 2 years, we were giving out these power stations to individuals on medical devices, but they also had to be on our state Medicaid program. And this will power the laptops, your modems, medical equipment, and some of your small freezers. So they are a really good option. And then there are the portable generators that will actually support your larger appliances. We tend to stay away from the generators because they do require fuel, and you have to have transportation to go get the fuel, and you also have to have the finances to do that as well. Next slide, please. So with the portable units, the portability is the main opportunity. So if you do have to evacuate, you can at least take some power with you. The portable units are also not as noisy. They're very quiet. You get the tech support. If you do have to charge your battery, they charge at a very fast speed. For some of ours, the larger units, we can get them charged in under 3 hours. They also have power sources that are available, so you can use the wall unit, of course, but you can use the solar power, you can use an EV station, you can use your car if necessary. So there's an opportunity to charge these devices in multiple ways. One of the things that we want to look at for sure in a portable unit is the uninterrupted power supply, or UPS. So again, that's when the power goes out that the devices continue running. They're also easy to use, and they have a fairly long battery life. Multiple things that you can consider. Next slide, please. So when we create a backup power plan, there's several things that we want people to consider. What devices do you have and or use? So we have people conduct a power audit where you actually go room to room and identify everything that is plugged into an outlet or that is run by a battery, so that you have a very good idea of what's out there. This helps you identify your critical load, or what are the items that you truly need. One of the things that we want to make sure that people don't forget is like their garage doors. If you have an electric garage door, make sure you're going outside to include that as well. We also want people to calculate the power that they're going to be used once you've identified these devices. Prioritize your equipment that you want to make sure that gets power, and then look at the storage, maintenance, recharging schedule, whatever it takes for some of these batteries, and then of course the safety concerns. When we were looking at batteries that we were choosing to distribute, the safety was a key issue. So we were looking at batteries that were non-flammable. So in the power audit, one of the things we want people to do is look at the needs in each of their rooms. So we've listed some of the rooms, and we've looked at some of the critical loads. What things might you consider important? Your lights, the refrigeration of your medication or your special foods, medical needs, and of course, communication. So one of the things we also have people do is look at some low-tech alternatives, and we'll talk about those as we go through this. Next slide, please. So this is a sample of a power audit, and we have this form available to individuals if they want to download it. I believe it's on our website. So you can see, you can set up however many rooms you have or what rooms you might have. And then you can start listing all the devices that you have and in what rooms they are located. Again, this just gives us a really good idea of what we have and what we might need. Next slide. So we follow the CMIST acronym, so communication, maintaining health, independence, safety and support, and transportation. So we have gone through and looked at some of the devices under each of these that you might want to make sure that you have power to. And we've heard people talk about all the emergency radios and things. And so you want to make sure that they have power, whether there's a special outlet in your house that you want to make sure that's running, or you have backup batteries for them, all your medical equipment. And we consider not only smartphones, because you might need to connect with your doctor or healthcare providers during an event, but then we look at all of the other I guess more typical types of medical devices, whether it be a CPAP machine. We look at dialysis machines, ventilators, oxygen concentrators. We also look at things like power wheelchairs and your communication devices that you might need if you are nonverbal. Some independence things, if you have elevators or chair lifts in your home, you want to make sure those have power. Safety and support, the emergency lighting that you might have outside for safety. the flashlights having multiple batteries or have hand crank radios. And then transportation, making sure that your power scooters, your power wheelchairs, your garage door all have the power that they need. Next slide, please. So we have a power calculator that is on our website that helps people decide how long each item will last or how long their battery will last. You can select multiple devices. So you can select a device. It'll tell you what the standard wattage is, what our current utility rates are here in Colorado. But what's more important is how many hours do you use that device per day and how many days per week. And then once you add that device, it will tell you how long that device or the battery will actually run on that particular device. So with a CPAP machine, if that's the only thing you're running for 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, it will run about 7 days. So that's a very long time to have power. Now, if you add to that your oxygen concentrator that you're going to run for 4 hours a day and 7 days a week, then it lasts about 1 3/4 of a day. So you can see the difference. This helps you decide the size of the battery that you need and what you might want to consider when you're looking at that. So we have a whole list of devices that you can select from. You can also select other types of devices. And then we have the 3 devices that we were utilizing here in Colorado to give you a good idea of the differences between the sizes of your battery. So if it's a 3-watt, a 6-watt, a 12-watt, you can see the different amount of power that you are setting yourself up to have. Next slide. So when we talk about prioritizing devices, you really want to look at the number of devices you're considering. When we were distributing our devices here, we ran into people who actually had 12 different medical devices that they were on. And so it was going to take a couple of the larger batteries just to actually manage their medical needs. So again, you want to know the hours per day. Is it continuous? Is it intermittent? The number of days per week. Another thing that we found is the settings. A lot of oxygen-related devices have active versus resting settings. So if somebody's going to be out moving around, they're going to run their battery down faster than if they're just sitting in the chair at a lower use rate. Elevation is also key because at higher elevations, the draw is higher, so your battery is going to run down faster as well. Other things that you might want to look at are the settings, the actual settings on your devices. So the pressure levels, the respiratory rates, and this positive and expiratory pressure, or a PEEP. That's the amount of pressure it takes for you to exhale. So those are all things that you want to consider when you're prioritizing your device. Because we do recognize the fact that individuals are going to want to be on their phones. They're going to want to be playing games and be on, their other devices. And so we want to make sure that people understand that you can play on your devices, but you want to make sure you have enough power when you need it for your medical devices. Next slide, please. So other things to consider is the internal battery runtime of a device. So if you are on an IV or if you have a CPAP machine, you may have an internal battery that if the power goes out, it will continue to run. But you also need to know what that charge time looks like. So if you are at a place where you can charge your device, because you're not going to need it immediately, you can do that. Is there a rechargeable external battery that you could utilize, or even non-rechargeable replacement batteries. I know I have worked in a hospital that had individuals on ventilators on their wheelchairs, and they were always having non-rechargeable, well, they were trickle charge replacement batteries. So it was like a car battery. And so it would take a very long time for those devices to get charged back up. And again, looking at those alternate charging methods, is solar an option? And are you able, do you have an EV, an electric vehicle where you could charge, or can you just go out to the car? And then looking at some of those low-tech solutions or alternatives. So one of the things I always like to make sure people understand is for your refrigerated medications, most of them can be put into your toilet tank. So in the back of your tank, if you put your medications in a baggie and put them in the back of the toilet, that temperature is about the same as your refrigerator. It usually runs around 44, 45 degrees, which is what most insulin medications require. Next slide, please. So we also have the priority worksheet so that you can figure out what it is that you might want to utilize. So it has all that information that we discussed, and then you can set the priority. So you might think your oxygen concentrator is the #1 priority for you, so you want to make sure you have the power for it. Next slide, please. So some of the low-tech solutions for communication is having dry erase boards if your communication device isn't working, or we use some low-tech paper communication boards. Make sure people have access to them. So for medical needs, the ambu bag, or as we talked about, using your toilet tank for medication. For independence, if you have a power wheelchair or a power scooter, using a manual wheelchair is a good alternative. Safety and support for people that have behavioral health issues, fidgets are huge. Also, having a photo album. If people are separated from their families, it's important to make sure that that photo album is available with pictures of maybe their family members or their pets, their neighborhood, their homes, things like that. And then transportation, you can always find a different mode of transportation, like a bicycle or something that you might be able to utilize. Next slide, please. And this is just a lot of other recharge solutions. So rechargeable batteries, having LED flashlights, learning to cook outside. For shelter, having appropriate clothing for the temperature. Water, again, 1 gallon per person per day, because a lot of our wells here are on a power grid, and if the power goes out, you don't have access to the water. We've heard about the hand crank radios, and we heard about some of the sanitation uses, and making sure that you can fill up your water, your bathtub, or using your hot water tanks for that. Next slide, please. Some other considerations. We suggest that people go ahead and register with your local utility company for a medical alert flag or a medical exemption program, so that they know that you are on a medical device. This does not ensure that your power will be turned on first. It just lets them know that you are out there. And sometimes it is an opportunity to have a cost savings on your electric bill. We do tell people to install power disruption alarms, so that if the power goes off in the middle of the night, you know that it's gone out. Or this rising link is another type of alarm. It hooks to your router, and it stores enough power in that little box to send out either text messages or emails to up to 5 individuals, so that if you have a caregiver who's not with you, they know the power has gone out. But we also suggest people keep their devices fully charged and have backup batteries on hand. And having a list of non-hospital alternate power providers is huge. So you know where to go so that you're able to charge your devices. They've started setting up the utility resource centers where people can go to charge their devices. If you go to a hospital, a lot of times they want to admit you even though you don't have a medical problem. They don't like you sitting in the hallways. So it's important to know where those alternate power providers are. People have said that the fire stations will do that, and they will as long as they've not been called out to provide a service. And so you would have to leave then. And if you have natural grocers up there, they have indicated in the past that they are willing to open up some of their rooms for people to come in and charge. And also, very importantly, is to plan for an evacuation during an extended outage. So knowing where you can go, that you can take all your equipment with you if you need to. Next slide, please. So what do you do if it's more than three days or 72 hours? Make sure you have a support network with multiple alternatives, places that you can go, things that you can do. Identify some of your accessible shelters and accessible transportation, particularly if you don't have a vehicle. And then if nothing else, call 911 and at least let them know that you are in need. Next slide, please. So one of the things we offer here in Colorado is our AT Funding Sources database. It's a database I manage that has national, state, and local funding resources. So when I say state and local, they're all Colorado, but we have a lot of federal programs listed in there. So if people need assistance in purchasing some backup power supplies, they can look there and get some ideas of where they might want to go. Your local emergency management program may also know of some resources, and the utility companies. We are working with more and more of them to look at what they might be able to offer. Next slide, please. And these are some of the resources that we have. You can go to our website and download some of these different information sheets. We definitely have information for people who are on home ventilation or on dialysis and what that looks like when the power goes out. We also try to make sure people understand what information they need to have available and what they need to communicate with some of the first responders. Next slide, please. And this is a list of my contact information. That's my email, my phone number. You can certainly use the QR code that will take you directly to our emergency preparedness page, where we have multiple resources available for individuals. And I believe all the resources that you saw on the previous page are available in Spanish, and so we can make those available to you as well. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Julia. Finally, we are going to hear from Erin Taylor, the Executive Director of Upstream Access, who will share additional information about power resilience in Oregon. Take it away, Erin.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Taylor. I use she, her pronouns. For a visual description, I am a middle-aged white woman with gray and brown hair. I'm wearing hexagon rimmed glasses, and I also am wearing a black and white geometric pattern collared shirt. I cannot tell you how much help Julie has been the past 3 years as we've worked on this. I get to see her annually at the Colorado Access and Functional Needs Conference, and then she's always is always available by email too. So she has been a wealth of knowledge. So Julia, thank you for sharing all your information and to help us in Oregon. So at Upstream Access, we believe in something very simple, yet at the same time, that is essential. Access to power is access to life, and power is a basic human right. Backup power, safety, and staying connected have increasingly become our core focus areas as we continue to uncover the depth of the gaps, or rather the chasms, in existing systems. For many people with disabilities and older adults, power isn't about convenience, it's about survival. In one of our listening sessions, someone shared, "When the power goes out, I feel like my world just shuts down." Another person said, "When the power goes out, my independence disappears and I become completely dependent on others." These aren't gaps in efforts. These are gaps in systems. So Upstream Access, everything we do begins with community members' ideas, thoughts, needs, and wants. We start by meeting with people, listening to their needs, their routines, and what matters most to them. Through one of our grants, we're able to identify devices that support communication, medical needs, and daily living, devices that actually fit people's lives. But we don't just hand someone a device and check a box calling it done. We sit down together, identify what's needed for backup power, and create a bundle of personalized items. Then we take time to learn how to use each of the items, how to charge it, and how to keep it safe. To date, we've given out over 400 items that are either solar powered or rechargeable via solar powered within the last 2 years. This might be backup batteries, lights, phone chargers, misting fans, neck fans, or small portable solar chargers. Because the time to learn on a device is not during a disaster or even a personal emergency, it is beforehand. Knowing how to use the device and keeping it charged is critical, because access includes understanding and confidence, not just receiving the equipment and devices. We also include a QR code on each of our devices, so when someone uses it or charges it, they can share their experience. This way, it gives us real-time data, directly helping people how they're using it, what's working, what's not, and the gaps that still need to exist. We're also thinking beyond individual solutions. Through another grant, we're in the process of creating a power resilience advisory group to conduct environmental scans and talk to individual people to understand what programs exist, what's working, what's missing, and what's still being built. We'll also test devices and develop multiple ways to share the information for the devices through pictures, videos, plain language, and other modes of communication, because we know what works for one person may not work for another. We want to create a program that's sustainable for each person and for our organization. What we're seeing is this: accessing backup power often means navigating equipment that is complex, heavy, and costly. And that responsibility should not rest solely on people with disabilities. Power resilience is not an individual problem, it's a system issue, it's a community responsibility, and it's time that we start moving in that direction together and collectively. Upstream Access, we're working on creating a future where no one is left without power, without connection, or without the tools they need to live safely and fully. We welcome opportunities to share our work, present, or partner with others, including community members and those working in power, solar, and environmental justice spaces. Because again, access to power is access to life. If you have any questions, or you would like to support the effort, or if you need items or ways to find items that would benefit you, please contact us at Upstream Access. Please contact us at admin@upstreamaccess.org. And thank you for letting us share. This is something that's really passionate for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. For more information on personal preparedness, check out the Oregon Department of Emergency Management's Be 2 Weeks Ready program at www.oregon.gov/be2weeksready. The information is available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, Chinese, with videos in American Sign Language, narration, and closed captions. We will have the toolkit available in Ukrainian next month. I'd like to give a special thank you to all of our presenters for sharing their wisdom and experience with us today. We hope this information will help you and your community become more prepared. At this time, we welcome you to ask any questions you have. You can type your questions, recommendations, or comments using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. I'll now pass it over to Shirley Blake, our Public Information Officer with the Oregon Department of Emergency Management. Thank you, Shirley.
Yes, and thank you everyone to our presenters, Carissa, for Kayla, and for every person that attended this. So I have a couple of questions that are still open in the Q&A. They're for Andrew. Andrew, are you still online?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, awesome, Andrew. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So the first one is, how are you securing these cache sites from vandalism and theft?
Great question, because we've actually had several of them broken into in the past. And so what we've started to do, and it's been an ongoing kind of a thing, is we secure all the cache sites with locks, and so they're primarily Connex container boxes. And so we have multiple locks on there, and the locks that we use, we make sure that they're the protected head to where somebody can't come in there with some bolt cutters and cut the locks off. And then we've also used a local company, a welding company, who has in the center of the Connex boxes, they've welded that center thing to where we can put a lock inside there to where nobody can reach it. We also have security cameras that are tied into our city network, and so our local law enforcement have access to that, and they monitor that 24 hours of the day. And so if and they have a system on there, the camera system is called Verkada, and I can set on there like when nobody really should be at the cache site. So like let's say 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. nobody should be there. If somebody goes there, it sends the PD an alert. That way they can check on it. And so we also have lighting at each site. And another thing is we don't necessarily publicize exactly where the sites are. We just say where they're near. That way, nobody can really know exactly where they're at. But those are kind of some of the steps that we've taken, and we're trying to come up with more as well.
Well, that's very valuable information. This camera system sounds really cool. So thanks for that. Okay, there's another question for you, Andrew, and it's regarding these cache sites in Cannon Beach. Which of your emergency response organizations are able to open these and manage them as people are taking things they think that they need?
So the only people that are that have had the clearance or access privileges are city staff, obviously law enforcement, and then I have out of all of my leadership groups, I have or excuse me, out of all of my volunteer groups, I have a leadership team that comprises between each group, and they have access to open them as well. And we do training for them, and we do training for the city on how to properly open these emergency cache sites. We have standard operating procedures. We work with our police department, and they do de-escalation, scenario-based training that goes over exactly that. Like if we have to open up a cache site, what's the procedure? What if I don't feel safe? All types of scenarios. And so the people who have clearance to do that go through those trainings as well.
Awesome. I love the SOP and that you have identified people throughout your city, which is also like staff and volunteers that are able to access that. So thanks for answering those questions. And let's see, we have more questions. Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's see, let's go with Sharon's question. So many speakers suggested the use of phone landlines during power interruptions. Can you speak to the phone landline power during power outages? Our only landline provider locally has gone to battery backup and and only is it usable for an hour or two after an outage starts. This is in Oceanside, Oregon. Thank you, Sharon Brown, for your question. Who wants to take this question? John, are you available?
I sure am, Shirley. Thank you. Yes, this is a known issue. I'm not familiar with your specific telco in your area. However, knowing that you only have an hour and a half backup is very important for your communications capabilities. If landline communications is your only mode of communication, as in you don't have a cell phone or you don't have cell phone service in your area, this can be very challenging. I would be happy to sit down with you specifically, and it's a longer conversation to figure out exactly what the situation is for you, and I'd be more than happy to discuss that, and even bring in the telco company to figure out if there's things that can be changed.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's see. Kelly has a question. Are there training programs available that focus primarily on communications from radios, repeaters, low frequency radio, etc.? So there are lots of training programs locally, and there's some the state training, and then there's also through FEMA. John, do you want to speak more to this, or any other partners want to speak to the training that's available in their area?
Sure. So you've probably heard of ham, or amateur radio operators. That is one way to communicate, and they have there are individuals that own repeater sites up on mountaintops, as well as some other radio types. There's the GMRS, which is it is a non-testing, so you don't have to take a test to have a GMRS license. However, it does cost, and the last time I checked, I think it's $35 for 10 years. That might have been updated recently. I'm not sure. But there's also another mode of communications that's gaining popularity more in the urban areas where population density is higher, and that's called mesh radio, and specifically Mesh-tastic and Mesh core. So it uses a certain spectrum of the RF spectrum, radio frequency spectrum, to communicate device to device over pretty long distances. But the capabilities is the message can jump from one device to the next. So Suzanne's out in the eastern part of the state. There might be a possibility that we would have a connection if there were enough devices in between Suzanne and I to be able to send that message back and forth. The best way I can explain that is, we all know what a walkie-talkie is, a handheld radio. Think of this as a texty-talkie. So it pairs up with your mobile device, doesn't use the cell phone side, so it connects to the device, and then uses this non-infrastructure based communications software. But again, happy to dive deeper and link you up exactly with the community for trainings. There's CERT. There are amateur radio groups. There are courses that we put on here at OEM for communications. It all depends on where you're at for your location.
Yeah, that's great. John, speaking of links, could you send me a link to that mesh radio? This sounds cool. I would love to be able to share this out with the group, since we are sharing out all the links. A few of you have asked for the Cannon Beach Barrel program. I did put that link in the chat. We're also sending the links via email with the email that you signed up for this webinar for. I know some of you said you can't access the links or download the PDF, so that's why we're going to be emailing this information as well. But some of those links are actually in the chat already. Just scroll up if you don't see them, because recently I shared a partner shout out with a few links. questions. Any other folks want to contribute? Any of our panelists, do you all want to add a comment or two or have anything else to share regarding that? Okay, Lon said mesh core is a better product with longer range. Great. Yes, there's going to be an email. Somebody said 900 HZ. Somebody also asked, having a service such as, do you recommend having a service such as Starlink in the event fiber goes down, or to have backup fiber providers? Are there other low-cost solutions people should consider adding?
So one of the considerations, and again, this is a longer conversation, but one of the considerations is the newer services that the cell phone companies are providing, which is that direct to satellite communications. My personal telephone, I have T-Mobile, and I'm able to send text messages as well as get light data over these direct to satellite services. There are other services. If you have an Apple iPhone, there's the SOS feature where it uses satellite communications to send emergency alerts to 911. There are many other different things, but there's again, it's a very new technology, so it's device and your cell phone service provider restrictive. So if you have a need, I suggest looking into that with your specific device and your specific carrier and learn more about it, because the capabilities are absolutely amazing. It's a good technology.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the information. We have reached our time's limit. I want to be respectful to everybody's time. I also will be working on answering everybody's questions, and those will also be sent out as a PDF. So if I haven't answered your question, I absolutely will. And thank you again to everyone for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and please share out this information. Thank you again so much. Have a wonderful day.